less detail, you can go here and make it coarse. In this case, it's not affecting it because it's a 3D view. But what I can do here is I can go through these different items right here, wireframe to hidden, and all this is right here under visual styles. Going to consistent colors, and if I go to realistic right here, it gives me this some texture on there. So that is something that we want to pay attention to, is how we can actually change our view, because there's times you want to do it. Another thing I want to point out is that at this point you may or may not have read in the book yet, but if you take a look and you can see I've got my different information here, you'll see you've got this ability to thin your lines out right here. This is a very helpful thing. It's on the modified panel right here. And thin lines allow, if you're looking and you're zooming in, you're seeing that your lines are a little too thick, go ahead and hit thin lines, and it gives you a really nice crisp view of your project. Okay, that's a really helpful thing right there. Thin lines. Okay, so moving along here, we went through this, opening and reviewing a project, and that idea as far as what the lay of the land is working with Revit. Moving past that in chapter 2, we talked about basic sketching. And some of the stuff is real similar to AutoCAD. We see these tools up here, very similar to what we use in AutoCAD. We also saw that there are going to be options that you can actually set up here. Drawing aids, such as temporary dimensions, and the properties palette, as is in AutoCAD. So general sketching tools, drawing aids, object snaps are part of that. By the way, your object snaps are also included in Revit under Manage right here. And you'll see your snaps right here. So if your snaps are not turned on, you can turn them on right here. All of mine are turned on right now. You don't necessarily have to have them all turned on, but they just are by default. So that's under Manage and then Snaps. That's something you just want to be aware of. And then you also have reference planes, which we saw in one of the tutorials we worked on last week. These reference planes act kind of like construction lines. Moving through here, you can use dimensions as drawing aids. And a few other things here, we talked about editing elements, and then selecting multiple elements using a window or crossing, same convention as is used in AutoCAD. And then you can actually filter a selection set. We did this exercise, sketching and edit elements. Worked with basic modify tools, using mirroring and rotating, copying and moving. Did some other work right here with working with the basic modify tools. A few things, aligning elements and so forth, splitting walls and lines, trimming and extending and how that works in Revit, offsetting elements, and then there was an exercise working with that. So that's the first couple chapters there. And then we went into chapter 3. Chapter 3 was setting up levels and grids. And what this was talking about, levels, are these items over here, where we actually are essentially telling Revit what our floors are going to be. Temporary dimensions are part of this. We modify them. We created some plans and levels last week.
What is the blue versus the black circle mean again?
Blue means it can be, basically it's editable, and in this particular case, it's essentially when you see something in blue in Revit, like if I'm in here right now and I've got something that is highlighted like this, that means it's something that I can edit if it's in blue right here. In this case, I can change the wall's orientation. If I have, for instance, this door, I have this door selected right here, I have these different items, and when they're blue, anything that's blue is basically telling me that it's editable. You can change it. Once it becomes black, it means it's now a permanent thing in the drawing. And again, you can change permanent things, but there is a, but you have to go through a step and make it kind of like exploding it in AutoCAD. So that's what that would be there. Now, when it comes to the question you're asking, which would be your foundations, let's see here. Okay, so you got these right here, and yeah, these are editable right here. And I think as far as the blue versus the black, I'm not really sure off the top of my head when you're actually setting up your levels, what the difference is. I think it's when you're in edit mode that they change color from blue to black. Let's see here. So under here, okay, so we took a look at that. And then further under chapter 3, we talked about that, and you see you've got these right here. And these are blue, and these are black down here. And then you've got structural grids, which is your basically a column grid. You set that up. Your elbows, by the way, some of you asked, you guys pointed out just like, hey, where's the elbow? Well, the elbow is this little kind of squiggle that you got to really kind of zoom in to see. And you can see it here, and you can see it here. That's what the elbow does. And when you put that in, it allows you to cantilever the actual grid bubbles out. So you can go ahead and look at that. We talked about columns at one of the exercises has us inserting columns. And then this is something we're going to get to tonight, linking and importing CAD files. Because when you're putting in columns or grid lines, very often what you're going to want to have is work off an original template or a CAD file. That's what we're going to do tonight. We're actually going to work off our CAD file. Overriding visibility and graphics, how to set it up in halftone, we saw that, and so forth. Who was able to make some progress on this in the last week? Did you guys get a chance to finish these, get through 1 through 4? Okay. Did anyone not get a chance to go through that stuff? Okay, all right. If you didn't get a chance, no problem. You can still get through it this week coming up. But I definitely would recommend for your own benefit to do that. It's just, again, learning what we're learning in Revit right now is a bit like taking a drink out of a fire hose. And if you're just going to try to glean everything out of these lectures that I have right here, you're not going to get it all. There's a lot of content. You're going to have to spend some time on your own learning, okay? Like college students do. Okay, that's kind of what you got to do. So I would definitely get alone with the book, spend time with it. There's a ton of content online, a ton of stuff out there for learning Revit. And so if you've got questions, and also please realize you've got a lot of other resources besides the book. You've got these classes, you've got the book, you've got Jennifer, who is our tutor, who's being paid to sit in that room and answer questions. All right, you have my email, and you also have my cell phone number. So if you have questions, you can get answers. Okay, so really there is. In addition to that, if you just go to Autodesk.com, there's all kinds of videos to do everything you want to know. If you don't go there, you can go to the Autodesk website and go to the forums, which there's content, you know, that go into pretty much detail on anything you want to learn. So there's really not a whole lot of reason to not learn this stuff unless you just don't want to spend the time. If you don't want to spend the time, you're kind of, you're kind of in the wrong place. Because the whole thought of this is we're investing time to learn something. And you're not going to get it all out of me, don't expect it, okay? I cannot possibly give you that much. However, I can get you in the basic direction and so forth, and we are going to learn the basics in class, and I feel very confident that you're going to get that much, but you're going to do some work on your own. So that's kind of how that works. So, grids and columns, and then moving past that into chapter 4 was the last chapter that we covered last week, and that was walls. And walls are actually one of the more I think intuitive things. As you're working with walls, you can actually set up a wall to be essentially as thick as you want it to be, have a height, and also to have materials. We're going to look at that tonight. Also, one of the really important things is when you're starting to put in walls, a couple things you want to take note of. One of the things is, what is the location line? In other words, what's the orientation? Are you going to be drawing to the outside dimension, to the centerline dimension, or the inside dimension? And that's something we just want to be very aware of. And also, as you begin to draw, you're going to want to also make sure that you pick a wall type that's appropriate. We're going to do that tonight. It's going to be fun tonight. We're going to have some fun tonight. Possibly you might get out a little early. I don't know. We got out 20 minutes early last week, but you paid the price for it, so it was okay. Modifying walls. We talked about walls, and we talked about how they go in. We also talked there's ways to edit them, and this is where doing temporary dimensions and so forth is really going to be useful to you, because you really couldn't do that in AutoCAD, but you can do it in Revit. So again, you can grab the grips, which are these blue circles, and you can drag walls and content. And then in addition to that, you can also, once you work with that, you can also override a value and go ahead and change an overall value of a wall. Okay, there's an exercise where controlling wall joints, because sometimes they don't go together really well. That's a pain. Also, right here we've got editing wall profiles. Again, it's an exercise in the book. Wall openings. Modeling the exterior shell was an exercise for that, and then there was also adding interior walls. So, okay, now last week we didn't get to this in class, and a couple of you may have got that far, but so as far as working with interior walls, and just walls in general. One of the things about walls is that you can basically set up walls in Revit a couple different ways. You can set up walls so that they are going to be just essentially just a big thick gray slab.